welcome to another episode of Gene's Wrestling Collection. And as you remember, last week I showed you some of the Randy Macho Man Savage items in my collection. And at the end of that one, which was recorded last Saturday, and then went up on the channel on Monday, I had mentioned that we would be taking a look at some of my Jerry the King Lawler items in my collection. Like I said, recorded on Saturday and went up on Monday, and then it came out either late Monday or Tuesday that the King had suffered a stroke and was in a bad way, was in ICU. And luckily, since then, it's come out that the King is recovering. You know, he had a surgery and seems to be on the path to recovering and doing well. So very glad to hear that. I had briefly thought, even though I'd already announced this when it first happened, I thought, well, we're going to change this week's subject because I don't want anybody to think that I chose Lawler to take advantage of all the attention that's going on right now. But again, I did announce it beforehand. It's completely coincidental. But I think since the King is recovering and doing well, and it looks like he's going to come out of this just fine, we'll go ahead and take a look at some Jerry the King Lawler items and just send our well wishes and say, that we continue to pray for the King and hope he makes a full recovery and is back at it as soon as possible. So let's take a look at a few things. I've been a big fan of Jerry Lawler all my life for the most part. I can remember as a real young kid, watching Memphis wrestling on Saturday mornings. You know, vaguely remember the feud with Andy Kaufman as it happened. I remember it better from going back and watching it later, and the fact that it got referenced a lot over the years. But of course, that's one of my earliest memories of him. So, two of my favorite things I've got in the collection is this set that came out for Jack Specific, the Classic Superstars line, had this two-pack of the King and Andy Kaufman, which is I don't know. I always thought this was really cool, and kept them in the package for a long time. But a few years ago, I took them out to put them on a display. I'll show you at the end of this a picture of how all these stay displayed. Also have this picture of them in the ring, and what a legendary feud that was. I remember my dad and friends talking about that. Back when I was a kid, back before the internet and kayfabe and everything kind of went by the wayside. I can remember them talking about, hey, all that wrestling's all fake, but that thing with Andy Kaufman, that was real. He really dropped him on his head and sent him to the hospital. So it had its desired effect for sure. And then also have this loose figure of the King in his '93 gear. This was around the time that he went to the WWF originally at the 1993 King of the Ring, and I got this off Amazon, and the box was damaged, so I just went ahead and took it out of the package, and I decided to display him with two of my favorite Lawler feuds is obviously Lawler and Andy Kaufman, but also Lawler and Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. So I keep this Eddie Gilbert figure over there on display with Lawler, and of course, well documented what a huge fan I am of Eddie Gilbert, and of course the story of how I wrote three-quarters of a book on Eddie Gilbert, and then was asked to scrap it by his brother, so I did. But also I keep this picture over there as well. This is a picture, a very rare picture, because most of the time, Eddie was a heel and Lawler was a babyface, and like I say, that was a huge feud in Memphis for years and years and years. But they did appear together at a convention up north somewhere. I figure up in New Jersey for Carluzzo, and they got this picture taken together. There's a video out there. It's probably on YouTube, but it went around the tape trading circles of I think they called it Breakfast with Lawler and Gilbert, where they did like a Q&A with them two together, and it was really odd and rare at that time period. That would have probably been around 1990, 91, somewhere in there. So I don't know. I just big fan of both those guys. Just thought it was a cool picture to have over there amongst everything. Uh, Also got this Jerry Lawler pop vinyl. I don't have a big collection of pop vinyls. Rosie's got a lot more than I do, but I do have a few wrestling ones, and This one of the King is one of my favorites, and got this signed picture. I've got several from over the years. I like this one because it's the old school Lawler, and I've met Jerry Lawler a number of times over the years. I actually had the opportunity later on to actually work with Jerry Lawler. Like I said, the first time I met him was at a car lot back around '88 when he won the AWA World Title. I don't have a picture of me with him there. Here's a picture. This was right around the time I graduated high school. That was in Saltillo, Mississippi, at a softball game. Yeah, go figure. The King playing softball. No Sid Vicious, oddly enough, just Lawler. There's one that's in Chicago at Starcast, the very first Starcast. And then here's a couple when I actually got to wrestling. There's when I was megastar Memphis Monroe under the mask. I got to team up with Bad Attitude Tony Dabbs and the at that point not yet the Gun Show Brett Michaels. We was in a 6-man tag against Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee, and my good friend Neil the Real Deal Taylor. They're in Tupelo, of course. Getting to work with Lawler and Dundee in the town where the famous Tupelo concession stand happened with those guys was just a really cool night, and one I won't forget. Probably one of my favorite wrestling memories of actually being a wrestler. And then the next time I got to wrestle Jerry Lawler, that's in Amory, Mississippi, where again this time me and Neil Taylor teamed up to take on the King and his tag team partner Derek King, a guy that I got to be around quite a bit in wrestling, and just a funny guy. And what you don't see in that picture, and I couldn't find a picture here close by to throw up. Uh, Lawler brought along his friend Scott Schwartz, who you may not recognize that name, but is in the movie I mean not Toy Story, Jesus, A Christmas Story. He's the kid whose tongue stuck to the pole. Him and Jerry Lawler became friends, and he comes and hangs out with Lawler every now and then. He actually came to Amory with Jerry that night. He was in town visiting him, and our manager Hollywood Jimmy Blaylock ended up getting into a skirmish with Scott Schwartz. He was very excited to get to be involved in the finish. Brian Christopher showed up unannounced, and he ran in and was part of the finish. So that was another fun night, very memorable, very cool to get to work with one of your heroes along tagging up with one of your best friends. So that was very cool. Another figure I got still in the package. This is the original Jack Pacific Classic Superstars Jerry the King Lawler. And Jerry Lawler has one of the very best signatures out there, be it wrestling or otherwise. Very cool signature from the King. This is one of my favorite figures because this is my favorite Jerry Lawler. I guess you wouldn't call it a robe, but ring entrance gear, I guess you would say. I remember as a kid, our local video store actually had those two Jerry Lawler videos. Jerry Lawler, Best of Jerry Lawler Volume 1 and then Best of Jerry Lawler Volume 2, the early years that they advertised on Memphis TV all the time back in those days in the mid to late 80s. And our video store had them, so I rented them several times, ended up buying them when they got ready to sell them off. And I remember in that first videotape, that's what Lawler was wearing through the whole thing. He had on that entrance thing. And I don't know, that was always one of my favorite ones over there. It was really cool. But got that one signed. You see Jean and Rose, so that when I'm gone, you'll have her name on it too. So, but my favorite thing I've got, well, a lot of people consider to be the coolest, I guess, is I actually have a crown. This is not just, oh, that's like one of Lawler's crowns. This is one of his crowns made by the same person that made a lot of his crowns over the years, and actually got it signed there on top. I got that. I got this crown and got it signed the night of the Memphis Monroe 6-man tag match in Tupelo. So one of my favorite things, I used to really, when I was a kid, I used to think, it was so cool when you carry those crowns out there. And never imagined back then that one day I'd own one and have it signed. So that's pretty cool. And this is how I have it. I took everything off there because I didn't want to just put this one picture up. But this is how it typically stays displayed in there. Got Lawler and Kaufman on top, Lawler and Eddie Gilbert on the sides, and then we got a replica of the Southern Heavyweight title, which of course, was synonymous with Jerry Lawler over the years. I couldn't even venture a guess how many times. He's probably 150 time Southern Heavyweight champion or something. But had to have that to finish off the display. I've actually got another one of those crowns, a black crown over there, just like that one that's not signed, that I used to carry around because, my gimmick's the king of all wrestling media, Gene Jackson, which is a combination of stealing from Lawler, but mostly stealing from Howard Stern, who's the king of all media through wrestling in there, since I used to be a writer and I do all these podcasts. And it sits on top of this other case over here. And if you look back in the background, you'll see Double J Jeff Jarrett standing in the window over there, the first WWE Jeff Jarrett figure with the light up sunglasses and all that. I'm just missing his hat. I should try to find that one these days. But anyway, that is my collection of Jerry Lawler items, or most of it. There's, like I say, there's two or three more signed items over in the other room. There's a couple pictures, and I think I got a signed copy of Man on the Moon, but I was just too lazy to go there and take all that off the wall and bring it in here. But gives you a pretty good idea of what I got, and that's some of my favorite stuff. Because, like I say, I've always been a big fan of Jerry Lawler. Again, really hate that he suffered the stroke and has been going through what he's going through. But as always, man, Lawler's had heart attacks, he's had strokes, and he always bounces back as strong as ever. So I have absolute faith that he will do it once again. So look forward to seeing Jerry Lawler getting back out there and hopefully doing more commentary. I mean, I don't know that I want to see him wrestling. I mean, if he wants to do that, that's his prerogative. I think it may be time to maybe hang up the boots, but that's not for me to say. He's still doing it, and people are still paying to see him do it. So more power to him. But that's all for this time. I'm not going to say what we're going to do next time because I hadn't decided yet. And plus, after last time, immediately after I mentioned we were doing Jerry Lawler, the next day I find out he's had a stroke. So I don't want to jinx anybody. So we're not going to announce what the next episode of Gene's Wrestling Collection is going to be. You'll just have to tune in next time and find out. But thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like I say, we have these collection updates. We have podcasts. We have old school wrestling matches. Cheap Heat TV has a Patreon now. You can check that out. All kinds of great stuff. And if you want to find all of it, you can go to CheapHeatTVLive.com. You can find links to everything there. You can find our social media and pretty much a one-stop shop for everything related to the Violent Gentleman, Cheap Heat TV, Buck Jenkins, the comedian, all that good stuff. You can find it there at CheapHeatTVLive.com, or you can go to BuckJenkinsComedy.com if you're more into the comedy side of things. But anyway, we'll see you next episode. Thanks for watching.